Chicago is opening soon at a theater near you. Two film critics talking about the movies, and this is Roger Ebert, the film critic from the Chicago Sun-Times.
And right over here is Gene Siskel, the film critic from the Chicago Tribune and Channel 2 News.
The point of our show is to sort of be a news magazine about movies, and we want to show you what's playing in town, what's coming to town, and also maybe take you behind the scenes and show you a little bit about the movie business.
Right. Tonight we're going to do a little wrap-up on the Chicago Film Festival, which ended last week in Chicago, setting new records for attendance. We're going to look at a family film, Mr. Quilp. We're going to look at an MGM retrospective. We're going to look at Conduct Unbecoming, which is a rather unbecoming film. And, Gene, the festival had the world premiere last week of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which just had the audience tearing up the seats with joy.
Yeah, and also, I think tearing up a little my enjoyment of the film. They were applauding even during the credits. As Jack Nicholson's name came on the screen for the credits, the place went wild. Same thing for the director, Milos Forman.
They even applauded the cinematographer.
Yeah, there were two of them, too.
Yeah.
And the film is based on Ken Kesey's 1962 novel about a guy who is taken from a work farm over to a mental institution to be tested to see if he's faking it or not, to see if he's mentally ill also. And the film stars Jack Nicholson as that mental patient, and it's another aggressive, enthusiastic role for Nicholson. Some people, especially the people at United Artists who are trying to sell tickets to you, are putting out the theory that this may be Nicholson's 5th Academy Award nomination in 6 years.
It certainly is the case that it's often been bridesmaid but never a bride for Nicholson. He's been nominated again and again. He makes that trek out to the Santa Monica Boulevard or the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion every year, and he never wins anything. He was nominated for the first time and as a supporting actor in Easy Rider. He played kind of a drunken southern lawyer. I thought the picture really came alive when he was on the screen. Wasn't so good when he wasn't.
Then I think he had his best leading performance in Five Easy Pieces, where he plays Robert Arroyoca Dupuy, a failed pianist who's masquerading as an oil rigger, and it was a great performance by Jack.
Also, The Last Detail, he played a Marine Shore Patrol, picking up a guy and taking him off to the brig.
And then as the detective in Chinatown.
I thought that was the best American movie of last year, Roman Polanski's Chinatown, with Nicholson as a private eye in Los Angeles.
Now, in this film, Nicholson plays the patient, and he has right away an early confrontation with an evil nurse named Ratchet.
If Mr. McMurphy doesn't want to take his medication orally, I'm sure we can arrange that he can have it some other way. But I don't think you'd like it, Mr. McMurphy.
You'd like it, wouldn't you?
Well, give it to me.
Good. Very good.
Yummy.
Mr. Harding?
Oh. Merci.
Tell me, lover boy, why didn't you tell her to go? Jesus Christ. Oh, funny, huh? That's funny, huh? You know, that wasn't very smart. She could have seen that. Oh. Yeah. God almighty, she's got you guys coming and going.
From One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The part of Nurse Ratchet, the big nurse, is played by an actress named Louise Fletcher. Some of you may have seen her in the Robert Altman film, Thieves Like Us, which is really the film she was discovered in. Altman, once again, making one of these discoveries of ordinary people who seem to have extraordinary abilities.
She was the wife of the producer, is the wife of the producer of that film, Jerry Bick, and...
maybe that helped Altman to discover her.
I think so. You know, I expected a good performance out of Nicholson, and he gave a good one, but she really surprised me. In the film, or in the book, Nurse Ratchet, called the Big Nurse in the book, is just a real evil person. She's sort of like a machine. There's a lot of machine imagery in the book. And in this film, Louise Fletcher brings another component to the film completely. She has sort of a ambiguous sexual attraction to Nicholson, so you really don't know any kind of direction and way the film's going to go. So I thought her performance surprised me and was one of the pleasant surprises in the film.
It's a good film. It's a little bit of a disappointing film, I think. It wasn't quite the overwhelming experience that I'd expected, and I think one of the problems was that Forman didn't just stay with the human elements of these people. We meet the people in the ward, we begin to care about them and their problems, and that's good. And Nicholson is good when he's interacting with those people, but when Foreman backs up and tries to make his big points about the establishment and authority and sanity and insanity, I think at that point the movie loses its touch a little bit.
I think he also backs up in trying to give Nicholson so many great scenes. It's almost like United Artists can count another $1 million in gross every time Nicholson will have a riot scene, and there's so many, and the film is packed so solid that I think that the essence of Jack Nicholson is lost just by overkill sometimes.
All the same, the audience did love it, as we mentioned, at the film festival, and it loved it for scenes like this one. Nicholson has all the guys out playing basketball, including about a 30-ish Indian chief who hasn't spoken in 12 years. He's allegedly a deaf mute. And as we can see in this clip, the chief is not exactly a natural athlete.
Hands up, here. Up. Raise your hands up. Up. That's it. That's it. Up. All the way up. All the way up. That's a baby. All right. Huh? Okay, now jump up in the air and put it in the basket, Chief. Jump up and dunk it in. Jump up in the air and stuff that in there, Chief. Take a rest, Chief. Just stay right there. Take a rest. I'll be right back. Oh, Mancini, come here a minute. You're looking all right. Get right over here for a second. Now, just stand right there. Just get down a little bit. All right, stand up. Stand up. Go ahead. That's a baby. All right, you got her. All right. Now over there. Wait. Hit me, Chief. I got the moves. I got them, Chief. All right, hold it right there. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. That's it. Thank you, Chief. Now, hold it right there. Now, take the ball. You jump up and put it in the basket. See what I mean? Just put it. Mancini, hold still. All right, Chief. Here, take the ball. Now, jump up and put her in the basket, Chief. Ah! Jump up and put her in the basket. Not you, Mancini. Raise up, Mancini. Where are you going? Where? No. Fast break. Defense. Get back. Back. Yeah. Come on, Mancini. Where the f going at? General, get this man around here. That's it. Back. Over at the Chief. Fast break. Fast break. Hit me, Chief. Hit me, baby.
Later on in the film, the chief really does get into basketball, and when he really starts to play, that's one of the great moments, really. The audience really loved it, and so did I.
You know, we've been talking sort of negatively about the film. I think that's maybe because we have such great expectations for Nicholson. He's my favorite actor. Milos Forman is a distinguished director, a very subtle one, and in this film there's a little bit of heavy hand being laid on. And so when we have high expectations, sometimes we're really rough on the films that we like, and the films that we don't really expect anything from, we're a little bit easy on.
We shouldn't allow it to be lost in our discussion that we do think it's a good film, basically.
Yeah, and one worth seeing. It's playing right now, I guess, at the Esquire Theater, and it's going to be there for a long time. It's going to be a very popular film.
And as I think I mentioned, it had its world premiere here last week in the Chicago International Film Festival. One of the real coups for the festival was getting Nicholson and Foreman to come in, and this was the 11th year for the festival, which started out, Gene, you and I can remember when it could have been held in a hotel room. Some few people turned up.
I can remember when some of the films that they showed deserved being shown in a hotel room.
Probably were photographed there, too. But this year they had more than 80,000 people. They had in attendance. They had more than 38 films, 30 of them in competition from 20 different countries. And one of the things that I liked about it was the opportunity to see a film like the Australian film, Sunday Too Far Away, because a festival discovers these films and brings them in. They're the kind of films that when you hear them described, they don't sound like anything you'd want to see. Sheep shearing in Australia, it just doesn't really turn you on.
What turned me on about the film is that these guys come across sort of like the Lost Cowboys. I'd like to see American films about some artisans out in the West, and we got to see these sheep shearers, and they're a breed apart, and we wouldn't have seen the film. It's true. It would never have played a commercial theater if it wasn't for the Chicago Festival. There was another discovery at the festival, a guy named Bruno Bizzetto, an animator, and he made a very good film called Opera. And he also did a film called Self-Service. It's about a bunch of mosquitoes who are real hungry. They're facing an energy shortage, a fuel shortage, and what they want to do is get some fuel, and they do it when they meet a nice big tow.
Bruno Bozzetto's Self-Service, I should mention, that was just a short segment of a film that was about 10 minutes long, and it won the festival's Golden Hugo as the best piece of animation in this year's Chicago Film Festival. A good one from a new animator nobody ever heard of before.
He did another good one called Opera, which really spoofed all kinds of operas, and I guess based on these two films, he's got a contract now to do a feature-length cartoon.
Feature-length animation, which should be something to look forward to.
I like these animated films because they're always surprising. You never know what's going to happen. Animated characters can do anything, I guess, but the live-action stuff that we see with real people, half the time it's over before it starts. We know what's going to happen.
It's exhilarating in a cartoon because the animator has total control over time and space, and so whatever his fantasies are, he can realize them, at least within that format.
There were some other prize winners at the festival, too.
Right. This year's festival was won by a film by Andrzej Wajda called Land of Promise. It was a Polish epic about Poland's transition to an industrial state. And there was a certain amount of controversy on the jury, Gene. It was a 5-3 vote. A lot of people liked Land of Promise because it was a sort of Gone with the Wind sort of epic that was a traditionally well-made film. On the other hand, the so-called Special Jury Award, which is kind of a special second prize, went to Fist, Right of Freedom by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, one of the new generation of West German directors. And I think the minority on the jury, and I must say I was part of it, felt that this new kind of cinema from Germany, kind of a terrifically melodramatic subject handled in an almost outrageously banal way, if I may say so, deserved a little more encouragement than the more traditional film.
I thought even better than his direction was his performance. He was a leading character in the film. A homosexual gets involved in a rough crowd and gets destroyed by it, and you rarely see a director who can act that well.
This was his fourth film in the Chicago Film Festival and his third Hugo, even though he hasn't ever won the first prize.
The festival's over now, and we're waiting for a lot of Christmas films to come into play. But of all the things that we should get is a family film. We don't get many family films any time during the year. It's sort of strange to have one now. It's a film called Quilp, Mr. Quilp. Anthony Newley stars. And Newley plays a really evil guy. He plays a man who's a wicked moneylender. And because he's the star of the film, he gets to show us just how evil he is in a title tune.
I'm Quilp, you can call me Daniel, scruffier than a spaniel, slippery as an eel, the real McQuilp of fame, as cunning as a weasel. Well! Every little breeze will whisper my name, here in my home from home by the rat-infested river. I deliver smuggled wares, have a hot Havana. Here I dine alone on a load of rum and kippers, cheating on myself at solitaire. King of Hearts is Mr. Dan. Dan, quilpish to the backbone, stab you in the backbone, stinkier than a skunk, the smallest hunk of crime since Borgia did her grooming. And though to err is human, to quilp is divine. So if by some odd fluke you're looking for a villain, stoop a little lower and you're looking at a rill. And I'm Dirty Dan, the bottom of the barrel. If it's nasty and immoral, it's Quilp.
Anthony Newley as Mr. Quilp. It's a G-rated film. It's in neighborhood theaters now, or it's in the Chicago area now, I should say. It's based on Dickens' The Old Curiosity Shop. Maybe this is kind of a tradition, Gene, at Christmas time, a movie based on Dickens. We had Oliver, the musical. We had Scrooge, based on A Christmas Carol.
Albert Finney in that one.
Right.
We rarely get family films. The filmmakers always say that parents talk about taking their kids to films, so that they rarely go with them, especially during the week, Monday through Thursday. These films die, and it's only a little bit of a weekend business, and then the parents really don't go.
Another thing that is probably the case is that if a Disney film opens, and we're not putting the Disney organization down, but people know, well, it's a Walt Disney film, it's got to be okay, I'll send the kids. Anything else they're not so sure about. And so some of the more inventive films, in addition to the ones I'd mentioned, I'd also had Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from about 4 years ago, get overlooked in the shuffle, while fairly routine Disney films do a lot of business.
The parents really want to make sure that their kids aren't insulted by the film or have gross language in it. And I think that they're not aware of what the kids really want to see. The kids don't want to see the fluff. I'm sure the calls you get and the letters you get, kids want to see the same films their parents see. And they also, one other kind of film I know they like an awful lot are horror films.
They like horror films, and they like Jaws, too. One of the reasons that Jaws is the biggest hit that Hollywood has ever had is because kids like to see it. Some of them even identified with the shark. Those are the kind of kids you worry about. Another movie that's playing in Chicago right now is Conduct Unbecoming. This is a British melodrama, lots of great British character actors, lots of spit and polish. Not a very good movie.
It's set in 1890 India. Yeah. These guys have these bright uniforms and helmets, and underneath the helmets is a heart of evil, a head of evil maybe under the helmet. And it's a film that you and I didn't care for. I think people are expecting us to disagree a lot, not on this film. In the film, there's a scene in which Susanna York gets into some trouble.
Right, Susanna York. She plays the colonel's widow. They have a big drunken dance in the officers' mess. She wanders out into the garden. She's attacked in the gazebo. She staggers back to the party with her dress all torn apart. And
all of that in this scene.
My dear, what happened?
Brother, take the brandy. Take this is all quickly. Watch. What happened? Let's get her into the mess. What's happening here? She's been attacked. Come with me. It's all right, Marge. It's all right. Give me the brandy, please. This way, please, gentlemen. What on earth has happened, ma'am?
She's been attacked, Doctor.
Let me see that, yeah? Is that true? You were attacked?
Yes.
Well, who by? Who was it? Marjorie. Someone attacked you. You must tell us who it was.
the great accusation scene, and let it not be said that melodrama is dead. Needless to say, and I hope I'm not giving away too much of the movie for anyone who intends to see it, the person they think did it didn't do it, although the process by which we arrive at the criminal is a very torturous one and very unbelievable.
You shouldn't give away anything for a movie at all.
Not even that?
No,
Nobody
not
will
even
ever
that.
guess who did it in this one. Jim.
No, the Easter Bunny could have walked in. The guy that they pick or the woman that they pick, how's that for confusing people? Unbelievable. And the motivations, cornball Freud. I mean, it's really a stupid film. And when you're waiting 100 minutes to find out who's guilty, the payoff better be good. And in this case, it really is rotten. And I'll tell you, even in that scene, we could see what was wrong with the film. That pan across of those faces and the distorted kind of faces, that's such an old, hackneyed way of making a movie. It's more like a film play, which is what this thing really is.
Yeah, actually, after the accusation, it turns into sort of a Victorian Perry Mason. We get a trial scene. It's a summary court-martial at midnight. Unofficial, the commanding officer isn't supposed to know about it. Stacy Keach is in the chair. Michael York is chosen against his will to defend the accused man. And in this clip, we see him, Michael York, a young officer, trying to get at the truth.
Did you pick up a stone, perhaps?
No, I don't think so.
Or a branch from a tree?
No.
If you please, Mom, I think Mr. Drake is referring to...
I am referring to the injury sustained by Mr. Billington. A deep gash some 2 inches long behind his right ear.
Yes. Yes, of course. I do remember now. It was a stone. I picked up a stone.
I don't think so, Mom. I searched the area around the folly for an hour this evening, and there was not a stone to be found for 100 yards in any direction.
It may have been wood, a branch.
No, ma'am. Not a stick, nor a stone, anywhere. Nothing with which you could possibly have struck Mr. Millington.
Really, this is quite absurd, Mr. President.
It is indeed, Mom. Mr. Drake, it's perfectly obvious that when Mrs. Scarlett broke away from Mr. Millington, he fell against a tree or a wall.
No, I didn't.
Silence, sir.
I was hit.
Be quiet, please.
Of course, if you wish to take his word against mine.
Certainly not, Mom. Mr. Drake, this has gone far enough.
I'm sorry, sir. I was mistaken.
Though I can't recommend the film, I must say I did get a kick out of seeing the actors try to survive some really arch dialogue. Stacy Keach and Michael York do a valiant job, but the film breaks down really in the conclusion.
That's one thing I think we should make clear in case anybody wants to go see it. It's not boring because these are good British actors, and they're good even when they have to be hokey. In fact, sometimes they're at their best when they're chewing the scenery. Trevor Howard in particular is famous for that. One of the things that we're going to do on the show from time to time is talk to you about what's already in the neighborhoods, what's opened up, what's playing perhaps near you. And the first one we want to review today is Gene's task, Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, these will be things that we can really recommend, and I can't recommend strongly enough Dog Day Afternoon. Al Pacino gives a terrific performance. He'll be nominated, that's for sure, for an Academy Award. He plays a failed bank robber, a sort of a weird guy who tries to hustle some money together to support a sex change operation for his boyfriend. Big stars don't like to take risks like that in a role, but Pacino's terrific. And when he's out on the street doing weird things that you wouldn't normally believe, he does them with so much energy that I had to sort of suspend belief and really got into the picture. I liked it.
One of the funny things about the picture is that, and of course truth is stranger than fiction, it's based on a magazine article from New York Magazine. This robbery really did take place, much as it's shown in the film.
Another film that we can both recommend, I think, we're not going to disagree on this, is Hearts of the West. It's a beautiful little film.
We should really get down to hammer and tongs on something, but I did like Hearts of the West. It's a nice film. It's set in 1930 in Hollywood where they're making grade B, $1.98, terrible westerns. And Jeff Bridges plays a young man who accidentally is picked up in the desert by a movie posse. He's taken into town and becomes a star, falls in love with the script girl, runs awry with a terrible producer played by Alan Arkin. And it's a kind of a pleasant, low-key, it's a nice comedy.
It's a film you really want to like. And unless I'm wrong, I think that there's either a dog out here in the theater or it's time for our favorite feature, Dog of the Month.
Dog of the Month, Gene. What's the dog?
Well, my Dog of the Month would have to be Listomania. It's a rotten picture. Ken Russell is the director. He is the guy who grossed you out in Tommy, and now he's trying to outdo himself. I don't know why he would want to do that. He destroys the career of Liszt and also of Wagner. This is the same Ken Russell who made a great series of documentaries for British television, and then a beautiful film called Women in Love. Now he seems to try to play up to the rock audience, and just by grossing the audience out. I didn't like it at all.
I really couldn't disagree with you more. I think I gave it 3 stars in the Sun-Times. I'm not a Ken Russell fan, but I did like Tommy, and I did like this. because I felt that at last he had cut away from his desire to kind of make a halfway respectable film, and he had become inspired in his madness.
Yeah, but he had made more than halfway respectable films. He had made thoroughly respectable films. This is trash.
On the other hand, I think that this was the first of the second film in a long time that wasn't trash. So we disagree. Can I go on to My Dog, which is another
I kind
film
of agree
that's
with your dog.
fairly controversial, Mahogany. It's a big soap opera. It's got all the dramatic cliches of the 40s and 50s, only now the characters are black instead of white. And so I guess we're supposed to say, well, that's really progress, but I don't think it is. Diana Ross plays a fashion designer from Chicago. She falls in love with Billy D. Williams, who is sort of a Jesse Jackson type. And she goes off to Paris with Anthony Perkins, which is a mistake, goes to Rome, I should say. It's a mistake to go anywhere with Anthony Perkins in most of the movies that he's in. And I didn't like it. I felt there wasn't an original moment in it from beginning to end, and the fact that it was about a black girl rather than a white girl didn't make it any better for me. It's an old-fashioned film.
The only thing I liked was that it was shot in Chicago, and our city always looks great, and we ought to get more films made here.
I said it was old-fashioned. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. One of the things we want to talk about is a series that's coming up at the Biograph Theater on Lincoln Avenue, and it's not just another revival series. They've got a package of 40 MGM classics. These are new prints made from the master negatives, which are in the vaults in beautiful downtown Culver City. And so often when you see these films like Singing in the Rain or Grand Hotel, Mutiny on the Bounty, it looks as if they've been dragged down the street before they were shown in the theater. It's nice to see them in a new print.
If you've seen them on television, it's not the same as seeing them this way. These are, especially the color films, they're made off of original negatives, and they're beautiful.
The thing you can do, I guess, is go by the theater and pick up a schedule. They're going to have movies like Captains Courageous, Tarzan of the Apes, Camille with Garbo. The Christmas double feature is The Wizard of Oz and Meet Me in St. Louis.
It's certainly worth seeing, and that's what's opening for us all at a theater near you.
Hooray for Hollywood, that's gooey valley, hooly Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan.